I am delighted. I have heard so much about you.
Yeah, but you can't prove it. Your bath is ready, Miss Lou. You take it. I'm indisposed.
Ever imagined what it would be like standing next to your favorite celebrity? Most would imagine this moment as one that would take their breath away and one that they would cherish forever. But looking back in the industry, there have been celebrities that have made it to public discussion for actually being committed to taking the breath away from people around them, but not just in the way you would have imagined. Here are some celebrities that were infamous for their poor hygiene. Cary Lee. Though Cary Lee is not quite as well remembered as so many of the icons of the Hollywood Golden Age, he carved his niche in the entertainment business with his signature performances. While charming on screen and gifted with natural acting abilities, it is said that Lee developed a rather unsavory reputation for being unclean in person, another trait that instantly made a lasting impression with co-stars and crew alike. A lot of Cary Lee's acting career consisted of mid-20th century dramas and comedies, often playing that kind of working man character. He was not a leading man per se, but he was one of those supporting actors who had, or was at least supposed to have, a stronger-than-average capacity for emotional depth and near-comic flair in ways many actors did not reach. A talent on both the theater and film sets, he was securing for himself consistency in regular parts as well as recognition for his craft. The rather less fabulous fact is that Lee was notorious behind the scenes for not taking care of his personal hygiene. People with whom he had worked on different film locations said that he might go days without showering. This naturally would mean that the body odor would develop to a stage where it was no longer easy for people around him. He had attire that looked suave when on camera, but was not fresh. And besides, he did not seem to care about keeping an appearance when the camera stopped rolling. As if that was not enough, Lee was a heavy smoker, which further worsened matters. With the stale smell of tobacco besides general ill hygiene, proximity to him could become unbearable, especially during rehearsals and intimate scene work. Co-stars and crew were more often than not torn between awe at Lee's talents and a frown at the discomfort that he brought with him. The anecdotes go on to illustrate that, even while most tried to avoid any form of direct confrontation with him, actors tried subtly to apply methods of tackling it by keeping a distance during breaks and asking for more fresheners around shared spaces. A few directors were said to approach the subject with him diplomatically, though it is not clear whether it ever encouraged a change in Lee's habits. Co-stars report that they would prepare themselves in advance if their work with Lee required them to be physically proximate to him. Makeup artists sometimes had to intervene to get Lee camera ready and to handle discreetly certain of his hygienic needs. While Cary Lee's personal hygiene issues did make him the talk of his colleagues, they were watered down by what the man added to the film industry. His ability to make a character come alive, and his interpersonal relations with most people guaranteed him a spot in Hollywood history, even if his habits when off-screen were less than desirable. Mae West. Mae West was the most provocative, most flamboyant of all the stars in Hollywood, her sultry symbol with a sharp wit and honed mastery in acting, which marked her as one true Golden Age icon due to her fabulous career on screen, stage, and in vaudeville. Behind all that glamour and enormous persona, however, rumors insist that West was reputably odd personally, right down to matters of hygiene. While her roles brought great applause, her lack of attention to cleanliness was said to make people feel discomfort from working closely with her. West's professional career spanned many years, from vaudeville through Broadway to Hollywood. Her films, such as She Done Him Wrong and I'm No Angel, were massive hits partly because of her unabashed confidence. She faced several challenges, but West's charisma and talent made her a celebrity and one of the best-paid actresses of her time. Despite her polished on-screen appearance, accounts of those who had the pleasure to work with Mae West report hygiene habits that are quite contrasting with the glamour. Accounts have her as one who didn't subscribe to frequent bathing. She was said to make much use of perfumes and powders on account of body odor, which blended with the smell to create something unpleasant. Though West's commanding presence and talent generally brought respect, Co-stars and crew knew well that cleanliness was far from her priority. Co-stars that had to work in close proximity with her would often comment on her heavy use of scents, rather than actually keeping clean. They would admit in private that this overpowering perfume, in combination with infrequent bathing, made for uncomfortable air around her. Less fortunate were the crew members responsible for her costumes, since her ornate, heavily ornamented costumes required a great deal of maintenance to look their best and not nurture some truly awful odors. A behind-the-scenes story like this added to the Hollywood legend, placing an ironic twist on West's persona as a sultry seductress. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was a Hollywood Golden Age leading man who had become known for innovative, sensitive performances. But beneath that polished on-screen poise, he harbored one of Hollywood's stranger secrets, an infamous reputation for his lousy personal hygiene. This caused much discomfort for fellow actors and crew members whenever they had to work with Clift. Beginning his career on the Broadway stage, Clift made the move to Hollywood, where his raw talent and unconventional good looks forged him overnight into a sensation, first among directors, then with the audience. Striking performances in Red River, A Place in the Sun, and From Here to Eternity marked his influence. He had broken the mold of old-school masculinity in Hollywood with his method acting and introspective roles, bringing a sense of vulnerability and complexity to his character portrayals. Clift's personal brilliance notwithstanding, he was notorious for not taking care of his personal hygiene. Co-stars and crew members alike would report that he rarely bathed, which made his clothes go days without being washed, resulting in some really bad odors. One of the closest friends he had was Elizabeth Taylor, and she was also quite often acting with him on film. She found this puzzling but put up with it as their friendship was so deep. Such big films as A Place in the Sun, and suddenly, last summer of 1959 reflect their great bond, but even Taylor, who apparently was very patient and loyal towards her friends, recommended that he take a little more care concerning grooming. Poor hygiene from Clift often made for an uncomfortable situation on set, especially in close-up scenes or in instances of romance. Co-stars would sometimes request adjustments, employing additional freshening sprays that may somewhat alleviate the situation. Shelley Winters, who worked alongside Clift on The Young Lions, intimated in her memoir that Clift did not have the most conventional habits, though she did so with appropriate humor and regard for his talent. Some thought Clift's hygiene issues were because of his laziness, while others thought it was because of his messed-up personal life and being hooked on drugs. Immediately following his near-fatal car accident in 1956, which had left him with permanent injuries and chronic pain, Clift's health began to deteriorate and further exacerbated his already erratic behavior. His drinking and painkiller dependence affected his capability to maintain basic self-care activities. The cinematographic world remembers Montgomery Clift with great respect despite his hygiene. His absolute devotion to his work and the depth of the real character that he could portray outweighed whatever discomforts his off-screen behavior might have caused. Nowadays, his hygiene stands remembered as a peculiarly interesting footnote in the life of a man who redefined acting in Hollywood, Joan Fontaine. As one of the finest ladies during the golden age of Hollywood, Joan Fontaine captivated audiences with polished performances and left them spellbound with the aura of mystery. However, behind the screen, whispers about her poor personal hygiene tarnished her image with a less than flattering reputation among her contemporaries. This quirk, alongside standoffishness, earned her a reputation that was extremely divisive in the industry. Born on October 22, 1917 in Tokyo, Japan, Joan de Beauvoir de Havilland grew up in a home that would successfully give birth to another star, her sister Olivia de Havilland. Following what was probably the most famous sibling rivalry in Hollywood, Joan forged her own career under the screen name Fontaine. Her big break came with Rebecca, Alfred Hitchcock's psychological thriller released in 1940, where she played the shy and tormented Mrs. De Winter. For this, she also received an Academy Award nomination. She did even better with Suspicion, yet another Hitchcock classic, becoming the only actor ever to have won an Oscar for a performance in a Hitchcock film. Her delicate vulnerability and way with deep emotional conflict made her a leading lady in demand for such films as Jane Eyre and Letter from an Unknown Woman. However, she built quite an infamous image off-screen. Rumors began to circulate about how she did not bathe regularly and also did not use deodorant. It was even rumored that her Rebecca co-star Laurence Olivier and Suspicion co-star Cary Grant complained in private about the foul odor she gave off on set. Grant, according to rumors, had asked for extra space between them in their scenes together. Added to these dynamics, Fontaine's chilliness on set would have only exacerbated whatever complaints might have existed about her hygiene. While it is not clear how much truth existed in these rumors, the persistence of these stories suggests that, in the industry, Fontaine's relationships were often contentious. These rumors of her hygiene, perhaps exaggerated, have always clung to her glorious career as a curious postscript. They're symptoms of how Hollywood blows the private lives of its stars out of all proportion. Fontaine's supposed smelliness might have affected her co-stars' impressions of her, but never once dimmed the beauty of her screen performances. Vivien Lee. Vivien Lee was an iconic actress who had her most memorable roles in Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire. She was idolized for her good looks, talent, and depth of commitment to her profession. Still, behind the glittering veneer, Lee was said to have had a bad personal hygiene habit, a trait that became a topic of backstage gossip and brought discomfort to her fellow performers. Lee had a career unlike any other. As the best-known actress to play Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, she won her first Academy Award for Best Actress. Her second Oscar came for her spirited performance as Blanche DuBois in the film version of A Streetcar Named Desire, which sealed her reputation as one of the greatest actresses Hollywood has ever known. It was depth and a magnetic screen presence that often overshadowed some very personal challenges Lee faced off-camera. Despite the really immaculate public image, Lee was infamous for not giving due care to her personal hygiene amongst her colleagues. People working closely with her revealed that often she would avoid taking regular baths, which eventually led to body odor. She also did not have good dental hygiene, partly because she was a heavy smoker. That served to cause some sense of discomfort during certain close, interactive scenes, especially for her co-S. Her husband and co-star, Laurence Olivier, reportedly was fed up with her personal hygiene, although the two had a very passionate love for each other. Olivier tried a number of indirect ways to let her know it was an issue, although he apparently could rarely discuss it without a fight. Her stormy marriage sometimes may have distracted Lee from her appearance. Clark Gable, her co-star in Gone with the Wind, is said to have found her bad breath during the kissing scenes really unbearable. He revealed that he chewed mints obsessively in a vain attempt to bear it. Colleagues and staff spoke about the huge disparity between Lee's glamorous appearance and her personal habits. In Lee's case, her condition has been linked to her battle with bipolar disorder and tuberculosis. Sometimes neglect became a part of her life and is probably linked to her struggles with her mental health. These struggles, added to the high demand from work and the personal turmoil, altogether culminated in a picture of a woman who was fighting her inner demons while maintaining the poised image of respectability expected from her. Spencer Tracy. As one of the greatest actors Hollywood had to offer, Tracy's performances left their mark with his naturalistic style of acting. He featured in familiar classics like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and Judgment at Nuremberg. Tracy was an actor with 2 Academy Awards under his belt who helped shape screen acting. However, compared with his professional success, Tracy also developed a less desirable reputation for personal hygiene, where co-stars and colleagues alike were left uncomfortable in his presence. Tracy had been a 4-decade-long screen presence whose performances contributed to the creation of 2 consecutive Oscar-winning films, Captains Courageous and Boys Town. The subtlety of his style in acting and emotion made Tracy a favorite with directors and audiences alike. Woven into this professional profile was a very public relationship with Katharine Hepburn, which injected an added level of excitement into his public profile and sealed, over time, his reputation as a Hollywood icon. However, Tracy was far less observant of any personal hygiene off-screen. As many people working closely with him would recall, he mostly paid little attention to personal hygiene off-screen, often skipping bathing regularly and changing clothes. When he spent long hours on set, his co-stars were often left to battle with the odor coming from his body. This situation was made worse by Tracy's smoking habit. Accounts indicated that Tracy chain-smoked both on and off the sets and usually smelled of stale smoke due to his inhalation of cigarette smoke. Also, with his poor oral hygiene, close interactions like intimate scenes really caused a problem for some co-stars. Katharine Hepburn, his frequent co-star and romantic partner, had to bear his habits with characteristic pragmatism. Undeniably, the deep affection she harbored for him influenced her reaction to the dirtiness he carried along into their lives, though in private she would prod him into paying greater attention to grooming. However, Hepburn's resilience wasn't a trait shared by others. Some actors who worked with him found it strange to reconcile the brilliant actor on screen with the eccentric off-camera behavior. Stories abound about how he would not bathe during the duration of long shoots. Some crew members even went so far as to secretly air out costumes or sprinkle freshener on the sets. No co-star ever came forward in public to decry Tracy's personal hygiene, but it was well known by all and more often than not subtly accommodated. Though Spencer Tracy was one of the finest actors ever to come out of Hollywood, his poor hygiene did quite a number to his reputation. However, this did little to affect his standing as one of Hollywood's best actors. His talent, charisma, and conviction in his role outdid all his on-screen oddities. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was the Hollywood sensation of the 1940s, complete with her unique hairstyle, featured in such films as This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia. But behind that glamorous persona lay something so hideous it became notorious, all bordering on her hygiene. This little-known fact of Lake's life certainly left its mark on her co-workers and fellow cast members who often had to bear working with her. It was during the 1940s that Lake's career finally took flight as she became associated with the talent that she showed on screen. Her looks, like those of a pin-up model, and an aura of mystery the audiences couldn't seem to get enough of, made her one of the period's most bankable names. Paired with leading men like Alan Ladd, Lake's performances were known for an undeniable on-screen chemistry. Unfortunately, her great success was followed by a stormy personal life, as well as behaviors that frequently made her unpopular among her peers. To begin with, despite the glamorous look of Lake, she apparently did not care much about personal hygiene. It would appear that she hardly ever bathed, which would further contribute to her larger body odor that co-stars and crew members found hard to try and ignore. Often the object of tension on set, Lake was a problem as it pertained to filming with other actors in close proximity. Hygiene issues for Lake didn't quite end with her hair, which, though fans adored it, was said to be uncared for off-screen. Accounts describe her infrequent washing or grooming that left a foul smell. In addition, heavy smoking created a very uncomfortable element in the air for those working around her. Alan Ladd probably worked with Lake the most and was able to put up with her hygiene habits. While there were no recorded incidents of him berating her for this, on-screen relationships often require proximity, likely testing his patience. Other colleagues weren't so kind, and tales of her repellent smell and sullied wardrobe frequently surfaced, anonymously leaked to the press. Legend has it that cast members would find a quick way to freshen up their costumes, or at least use sprays on location to make an unbearable work environment somewhat tolerable. Other than personal hygiene, her notorious temper and erratic behavior did little to enhance Lake's reputation and make her easy to work with. There you have it. If there are some other actors that remember, do mention them in the comments, and we will see you in the next one.